Our recording. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Lunch and Learn for April. I'm Sarah Jacobs, Allen County Department of Health School Liaison and Health Educator. All right, what we're doing today. Any updates from the ACDOH or the IDOH? And I'll just go ahead and say it. The only thing I have on that is that there is a new communicable disease reference guide that I'll be sending out to the schools. And as far as just Allen County, Laura Weaver has no updates for everyone, which is a good thing. We're going to talk about National Healthy Homes Month. That's in April. I'll give you some resources today. There's a tobacco survey for schools coming up in May. We're going to talk about biohackers and nicotine, if you've heard of such a thing. And I want to say a little bit about our upcoming month and mental health awareness. We've got Nancy Kripe here talking about tobacco-free Allen County and healthy homes. So let's move on. All right, so this is National Healthy Homes Month. I got some information from the National Center for Healthy Housing, and their approach is that first and foremost, small actions make a big impact. They recommend changing filters, improving your ventilation, managing moisture indoors, using safe cleaning practices. And like I always do, I have a whole Word document with all the links listed. So that one is on there, and you can go to their site for any kind of social media graphics if you want to use these in your school, events that you may want to follow that they're doing, and any other resources. The Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority talks about some issues in the home like radon, lead. I did a little thing about radon a couple months ago, mold, electrical hazards, accessibility issues, structural concerns, carbon monoxide, pests, and refuse. If you have any of those issues, if students in your school talk about it, they can deal with that with these resources I have available. They have available on there, and I have a link available for homeowners, renters, landlords. There is an assistance program you can apply for, so I have a link to that application. Even contractors can get some kind of assistance and opportunities if they encounter that in a building that they're working on or a home. Just a figure here, 90% is the amount of our time that we spend indoors. You know, our students like to play video games and just be flopped on the couch on social media, spending time indoors. And that air inside is 2 to 5 times more polluted than outside air. And a lot of times when people think about that stuff, we're thinking about allergies right now, going crazy with all the rain, dust, mold, pet dander. But it's also just things that you put in your home to make it nice, like new carpeting, new flooring, the cleaning products that you use. There are these volatile organic compounds that sort of off gas from new furniture that you buy or paints and things that you use. Those things can contribute to the air quality indoors. Keep on trucking. All right, on the local level, if you visit our Allen County Department of Health website, we actually have a Healthy Homes page. And there's an infographic there that you can check out and use if you'd like. If you weren't aware, we do pest control through our vector program. There are free services to deal with rodents and mosquitoes. But if you read up on that, there's also some recommendations for other pests like cockroaches and bed bugs, things like that. There are also things on there about toxic substances, more recommendations. And if you'd like to get rid of those toxic substances safely, there is a link to the Allen County Department of Environmental Management on there so that you can find out what you need to do for that. And this division also takes complaints about unsanitary conditions. If in your neighborhood or somebody you might even know does things like hoarding, or there's a pool that's not being maintained, any other unsanitary conditions can be reported, and they will investigate that. Organization I came across called Take Down Tobacco does this thing on April 1st called Share Your Reason. So we've missed that date, but you can still go on there and have students share their reason, and it's pretty cool. Once they put their information in, it shows a map pops up and you can see all the different people. It shows a number of people who shared a reason, and you actually explain why you don't want to do tobacco products. And it's still open even though it's past April 1st, but it could be something fun for students to do if anybody's doing a lesson on this sort of thing in a health class, what have you. All right, from the state of Indiana, they are doing this tobacco survey next month. And what they're trying to do with that is measure cigarette, e-cigarette, cigar, pipe, smokeless tobacco, etc., any kind of use of that sort in grades 6 through 12. And then they will use that data to plan and evaluate any tobacco prevention programs that they may do, that they put out for us to use in Indiana. So something I tried to double check on is it says on there that they have a stipend of $500 for a school to participate. So I reached out to my contact at the state because they only take about 60 schools. So I didn't, and it's random. So I didn't know if you get this stipend if you offer to participate, if you do participate. It's not very clear on that if you're one of the people that's on the list, but you're randomly chosen. I could not get a clear answer in time on that.
Sarah?
But
I can answer that, Sarah. This is actually, it's a little bit misleading that they said it's starting in May. We're going to start doing outreach in May to them, but it'll actually take place next fall because we're involved with that. So I know a lot about it. It is a random sampling. So it's not something schools volunteer to do. It's something we ask them to do after they've been chosen by a random sample. And then if they do agree to participate, yes, they get the $500 stipend once we have actually conducted the survey. Then there's just a simple paperwork form for them to fill out, send in, and they get that stipend. And they can use it however they want.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. I'm glad I had you here today. Cool. All right.
Yeah. It's very, very
And
useful.
also,
so we lean hard on the schools to participate.
What the
well,
state
yeah,
has
you
done
need
for
students.
us.
So
Sorry, Sarah.
it's okay.
For the state, when they do it, like they'll pick, I don't know, typically we have 4 or 5 schools that they pick just because we're large. But they then give me the data per school too. So it's kind of nice that we can then look at what those schools are doing. So it's kind of nice.
All right. Well,
yeah, they do.
I didn't know if everybody.
They collect the data. They collect the data for statewide use so that it gets, what's the word for that? Agglomerated, or they get it combined for the whole state. That's how they publish it. Aggregated. That's the word I wanted. But if a school wishes to have their specific school's data, they can choose that. And that's what they're sending to you because you guys have chosen it. So yeah. And we usually have about 8 or 9 schools in Allen County that participate that we have to survey. So of the 4 different school systems, plus sometimes from neighboring counties that don't have a tobacco coalition to do it, we end up doing some of theirs too. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, cool. No, that's okay. I'm learning myself, and I didn't know how much was already done with that. So thank you. I also know on that site they have some sample questions, so you can see the kinds of things that they ask once you participate. Thanks, everybody. All right, so I thought that it would be a good idea to bring this up today because I keep getting articles on this with students and nicotine pouches, and they're very discreet, so I'm sure they can be snuck into schools. And as you can see, that top one, the Zyn, actually looks like some of the gums that people can buy in that little case. So even that is a little bit discreet in the pocket and all that, but also it may be mistaken just for something harmless like gum. There are influencers on social media right now that are talking about using it and making it look cool. This stuff has had a makeover, a rebranding, all kinds of colors and flashy things, promises. It is a stimulant. We've all heard that nicotine is highly addictive. There are people called biohackers because what they like to do is experiment with their own biology, their own bodies, and try to push the limits and see what they can do with different substances out there. And then they talk it up. Some people are using it for a pre-workout boost. Some people are using it to study. And yeah, it's bad news. They're already saying that it can hurt your mouth with the gums, all those things that chewing tobacco can do, throat inflammation, stuff like that. Um, a lot of students who are using it are depressed or anxious, and they feel like this works, but what it's actually doing is making those things worse. It alters children's brain chemistry, it alters their behavior. It's definitely not good for children, well, not good for anybody. One thing I read about is that coaches and phys ed teachers could be a really good resource for advocating for, hey, be healthy, don't do this stuff. If kids are going to track practice or wrestling practice and things like that, those coaches, those phys ed teachers, they can say, like, stay away from this stuff. This, you're supposed to be performing and you don't need this to help. These two brands here, Zyn and On, are the only brands fully authorized by the FDA. I say authorized, not approved. These are the two that the FDA is doing that with, and there's nobody else. There may be some things out there, and they're just not regulated. I have a link from the American Lung Association with guidance on protecting teens from these and vapes. And also the FDA I have a website from them with guidance for storing this to keep it away from children and pets. So it's also a danger in that way. It looks like candy or something fun, and we want to keep it away from doing harm. I have a raised hand. Erica, something to say?
I'm trying to be polite. I actually have a question for the school nurses on the call. I think you guys represent 3 of the 4 main districts. Do you know if your coaches proactively talk about things like this with students or athletes? And if they don't, do you think information that would equip them to have conversations would be helpful?
I don't know that our coaches proactively talk about it. I would say some of them probably have conversations with kids about different, levels of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, those kind of things. But if you had things to give them, I'm surely pass those along to the athletic directors. And because you're right, they do kind of look up to those coaches and advocates that way.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, Sarah, maybe like just some facts about, the negative side effects, and you could work with Nancy on it or something, and then like some conversation starters or, something to help them, just that they have it there ready in case they see a kid with it or something. Not that we're asking them to hold like an in-service or something like that, but just so we have a resource ready if they find that they need one, I think might be a good idea. And that there might be something like that already exists out there. I don't know, but worth looking into, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
One thing I might suggest that they would be good for them to know is just how much nicotine is in each one of those little pouches, because they're really tiny. But like, so what you show here is 2 milligram and 4 milligram, and there's now 9 milligram on the market as well. 9 milligram is like 8 cigarettes worth of nicotine. So, I mean, you get about 1.2 milligrams of nicotine out of a cigarette. So when you're thinking, even the 2 milligram is more than one of those pouches is more than you get out of a cigarette. So I think that is important information for people to realize. The kids don't realize it at all.
And Nancy, how long would the one that is the equivalent to 8 cigarettes, like how long would they have that in their mouth? Like how quickly are they absorbing 8 cigarettes worth of nicotine, I guess is what I'm asking.
That is a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
have to research that. I don't know. That's a good question. Haven't thought about it before. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, I need to ask someone what it's like because I'm not going to do it, but I wonder if they get softer and maybe that's how you know that it's time to change it out, taste different. I'm not sure. Right.
Wow.
Let's keep on trucking, I guess. I just want to stay ahead of this one for next month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And if you have anybody on staff that's planning to do anything with this, the IDOH site has some activity, or if you have activities that you want to plan for, the IDOH has some materials. They have videos and postcards. And I ordered some of the postcards. There's 3 different kinds with 3 different teens and a quote. And it does kind of look like a postcard, but it's okay to just pass it out. The videos are these same teens appearing and talking about their own personal experiences with depression or suicide. And those can be shown to classes and start conversations. Yeah, some research. And of course, we all know about 988 and uh, the different resources we have around here with the Remedy Live and those organizations. But if anybody needs a little something extra, the IDOH has plenty on that. All right. So we're talking about healthy homes mostly for this month. And I asked Nancy to come in and talk about secondhand and third-hand smoke that may also be in the home posing a danger. So I'm going to turn it over to her. Take it away, Nancy.
Thank you. Okay, well, let me remind myself how to do this on Teams. I'm bad at Teams. How do I share my slides?
I stopped presenting, so you should
There we
be
go.
able.
Share.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing it. Okay. There we go. That should do it. And I probably have too many slides. I am such an information junkie. I have a very hard time being brief. So if I don't get through them all, I'll get you the PDF of them that you can go through later. So looking at tobacco toxins in the home, secondhand and third-hand tobacco exposure. And when I say that, by the way, we're talking really, I'm going to focus on secondhand smoke, third-hand smoke, secondhand aerosol, third-hand aerosol from vapes. But there's also other forms of exposure, like to chew and to vape residue and to cigarette butts, and all of that is toxic. Just a little bit about how many kids are being exposed to this. This is data from the 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey of US students in grades 6 through 12. So this is self-reporting. In the past 30 days, they're asked, were you exposed indoors or outdoors to secondhand smoke or secondhand aerosols? And what they found was exposure to secondhand smoke and secondhand aerosol from vapes was reported by 60.6%. So that would be for smoke, and 44.5% for vape aerosols of all of the US youth surveyed. So that's pretty high. Like, I'm actually surprised that it's still that high. And among all students, 37.6% reported indoor exposure to secondhand smoke and 53.3% reported outdoor exposure. 34.9% reported indoor exposure to secondhand vape aerosol, 36.8% to outdoor vape aerosol. And no exposure is safe, whether it's indoors or outdoors. Obviously, outdoors is less intense, lasts longer or lasts shorter, so it would be better than indoors, but none of it is good. Secondhand tobacco exposure includes things like, as I mentioned, smoke, vape aerosols, e-liquid exposure, which is very toxic, exposure to tobacco waste, including cigarette butts, chewing tobacco residues, leaky vapes or vape pods, leaky vape batteries, etc. And just looking at so secondhand smoke, when you think about commercial tobacco smoke, all the tobacco products that are sold by the tobacco industry, the impacts on the human body, there are over 7,000 chemical compounds in cigarette smoke. Over 250 of them are toxic. They can harm every cell and system of the body. And over 70 of them are carcinogenic, so cancer issues. So if you're talking about exposure to that, obviously it is not good for kids or anyone else for that matter, but even more impact on kids than adults. Effects of secondhand smoke exposure on the body are immediate. There is no safe level. Even brief exposure can cause immediate harm, and it can produce harmful inflammation and respiratory effects within 60 minutes of exposure, which can last at least 3 hours after exposure. So even if they are taken out of that environment, they're still feeling the impacts for 3 hours at least. Even brief exposure to secondhand smoke can damage the body's cells in ways that set the cancer process in motion. I didn't like being reminded of that because I'm thinking of all the secondhand smoke I got exposed to in my childhood, in my 20s. Yeah, not good. And just to, because everybody always thinks of lung cancer, I wanted to show this graphic, which shows that it isn't just lung cancer. It's actually, it can cause cancer almost everywhere, all around the body, because those chemicals are going through the lungs, into the bloodstream, and then to every cell of the body, right? So all the organs are being impacted. And we know that exposure to tobacco smoke, whether it's directly or indirectly, can cause all these kinds of cancer. Those have been proven. I suspect we'll find additional ones as well as time goes on. Children exposed to secondhand smoke are at an increased risk for respiratory infections, ear infections, more frequent and severe asthma, respiratory symptoms, slowed lung growth. They have fluid in their ears more often and have more operations to put in ear tubes for drainage. Wheezing, coughing, and shortness of breath are more common in kids exposed to secondhand smoke. Children with asthma who are around it have more severe and frequent asthma attacks. And this graphic just shows some of the impacts on adults and then some of the impacts on children. And really those impacts on adults, you can kind of transfer it over to children because they're at higher risk of all of those too as they grow into adulthood, because really that exposure can have lasting impacts. Home is the main place kids are exposed to secondhand smoke. The smoke from a single cigarette can stay in a room for hours. Opening windows, using fans, air conditioners, air purifiers, air fresheners, and ventilation systems does not get rid of it. It's not adequate. Smoking in another room like a bathroom or a bedroom will not protect them, either kids or others. Secondhand smoke can spread through the home through doorways, cracks in walls, electrical lines, ventilation systems, and plumbing. And in an apartment building, secondhand smoke can travel between units. Can and does often. And to protect children, other household members, and pets, no one should smoke in a home or car, even when others aren't present. E-cigarette. Now moving on to vape aerosols. E-cigarette aerosol can contain substances that can be harmful or potentially harmful to the body. These include nicotine, which is highly addictive and also can harm adolescent brain development. It's also easily absorbed through the skin. So residues from vape aerosols or from secondhand smoke on surfaces can be picked up on the kid's skin and absorbed through the skin. It also contains cancer-causing chemicals, just as cigarette smoke does. Heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead, also like cigarette smoke, at least for the lead part. I'm not sure the cigarette smoke has nickel and tin, but it has lead. Tiny particles that can be inhaled deep into the lungs, volatile organic compounds, and flavorings like diacetyl, a chemical that is linked to a serious lung disease. Some flavorings used in e-cigarettes may be safe to eat, but not to inhale because the lungs process substances much differently than the gut. And then third-hand exposure. So that's secondhand. Third-hand is when what is hanging in the air lands on surfaces, and now that sticks to the surface. So you're picking it up on your skin, or it's off-gassing off of those surfaces, often for years afterwards. The other thing it does is interact with other chemicals in the environment, creating new chemical compounds, sometimes even more dangerous. So one of the things, for example, is if you have gas burning appliances in the home and there's not adequate ventilation, that nitrous oxide, I think it is, nitrous acid. I can't remember what it is. It's nitrous something that is produced by burning gas, natural gas, can produce this chemical that then combines with the tobacco smoke residue and actually produces some of the most highly cancer-causing chemicals that are in cigarette smoke. So it's creating more of that, which is not good, obviously. Products that can contribute to the third-hand chemical residue include cigarettes, vaping, so nicotine vapes, hookah, cigars, also cannabis that's vaped as well as smoked, bong and water pipes, and also just traditional pipes. Chemicals from secondhand smoke penetrates fabrics, rugs, and even wallboards. They can accumulate and be released back into the air, ingested with household dust, which is a problem if you're talking about little kids who are crawling around in it or touching walls or other touching furniture that has dust on it. They're picking up those chemicals, and it can be absorbed through the skin. In third-hand smoke, they are similar to those in secondhand smoke, known to cause cancer and heart disease. In mice, researchers have found that third-hand smoke exposure causes DNA damage, can cause or promote cancer, can cause immune dysfunction, and can cause behavior disturbances. And studies of people exposed to third-hand smoke found changes in blood proteins that have been associated with inflammation and heart disease. So how can people be exposed to third-hand smoke? It can be through the mouth by swallowing third-hand smoke when you put your fingers or objects that have been polluted with third-hand smoke into their mouths. Lungs, people can breathe third-hand smoke into their lungs when particles of chemicals are in the air, and skin, through their skin, as I mentioned before. It can last for years even after the smoking has stopped. And we know it increases the chemicals in third-hand smoke increase the risk of cancer, reduce the ability to heal from injuries, damage DNA, lower the ability to fight infection, damage cells, cause earaches, make respiratory illnesses worse, trigger asthma attacks, increase the risk of disease, and cause headaches. This one I found really interesting. It's a nice graphic to show how environmental tobacco smoke is actually a major contributor to lead, cadmium, and arsenic in settled house dust. And this graphic shows that well. You know, those particles that land on surfaces, and then kids pick that up and they're getting exposed to those heavy metals and other toxins. Health effects of third-hand smoke exposure. So animal studies have shown clearly that it is dangerous to health. Rabbits and mice developed skin cancer when tobacco smoke residue was applied to their skin. Another study on mice showed that exposure to third-hand smoke on their bedding material led to slow wound healing, inflammation in the lungs, elevated levels of fat in the liver, high blood sugar levels, increased blood clotting, hyperactive behavior, and poor weight gain after birth. Which, if all of those things happen for humans too, that's pretty concerning. Health effects of third-hand vape aerosol exposure we know less about than secondhand smoke at this point, but we do know that third-hand vape residue can increase the risk for blood clotting and heart disease because it causes abnormal blood flow. And then I put a big question mark here because that just needs to be studied. We don't know enough yet about third-hand vape aerosol. The last things I wanted to just give you were some references or resources, where to refer people for help to recover from nicotine dependence. So if you've got kids whose parents are smoking or vaping or caretakers, the best resource for them that is completely free is our Quit Now Indiana Tobacco Quit Line. We used to call it the Indiana Tobacco Quit Line, but it's a free quit coaching and other services because they provide free nicotine replacement, they provide self-help materials, they provide a texting support program, also a one-on-one coaching program. It's sort of, you can customize it to your needs. And this kind of goes over the various things they offer. It's all free. And their website on here, you can see how to refer. You can refer people. I mean, if you're talking to a parent and they're like wanting to quit, this is a great thing to do, is to say, hey, I've got a resource for you. I can sign you up right now. Take them to Quit Now Indiana and go to that how to refer and sign them up, or go to Quitting, we'll get you there as well. There's a couple different ways to get to it. So also a couple of excellent resources for youth and young adults who want help to quit vaping. This is ages 13 to 26 is the age group that they will serve. Live Vape Free is our state program. And you connect to that. Ooh, that's not very visible, I'm just realizing. But Live Vape Free, you text Indiana to 873373 or go to quitnowindiana.com/teens and you can get there as well. And the other program is a nationwide program, so you don't have to be in Indiana to use it. It's also good. Both of these are either, like Live Vape Free is online, and I don't think it uses texting. It's all online stuff. X program is all text-based. I would encourage young people to use both and just see which one suits them the best, and maybe they'll like both and get double the help, which would be a good thing. So X program is text X program to 88709 to get connected. Both of them are also free. They're both evidence-based. They're really good. Been around for a while. One last resource I wanted you guys to know about, because I just found out about it, is on Tuesday, April 21st, there is a webinar from PAVE, Parents Against Vaping and E-Cigarettes, which is an excellent organization to know about. So parentsagainstVaping.org is a resource I'd also recommend to you in general. But they're doing this webinar on vape waste for classrooms and communities to deal about the impact, to talk about the impact of vape waste and what should be done with vape waste, which is a real issue environmentally and in terms of human toxicity. So that's coming up. That should be really good. They're always good. So that's I got through it. Yay! I was worried I wouldn't get through it. So if you guys have any questions?
I do. You had some quit now materials for quitting nicotine. Would that also apply to someone who's doing the pouches and wanted to quit?
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Quit Now Indiana is really for anybody using any form of commercial tobacco, whether it's nicotine pouches, chew, vapes, cigarettes. They help with any form of nicotine dependence.
Okay. Yep. Other questions for Nancy? Anything in general? All right. Well, Nancy, thanks for being our guest speaker, and everyone who was here, thanks so much for showing up, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
So thanks for having me.